going on, dudes and dudettes? So yeah, of course, I just figured it's gonna be pretty slow. But then once NBA free agency started, I knew that was gonna be a little bit busy. Then I forgot the NHL draft is gonna be up soon, which it was this last weekend. And yeah, a lot of players gotta talk about for the Ducks and Lakers, and even some Duke stuff. But those are probably all gonna be in separate videos. This one's gonna be more on Lakers free agency focused, and hopefully I'll be able to get those other ones done in the next couple of days or so y'all can enjoy them and enjoy the updates of some of my favorite teams. But yeah, when it comes to Lakers, apparently a couple of their draft picks, Dalton Knecht, their first round pick, he's now going to be number 4 for the Lakers, which is pretty cool because now you can pretty much say Connect 4, kind of like the board game, whenever he, I guess, shoots or scores or whatever. So that's going to be pretty cool, especially if he gets fouled while shooting a three-pointer and makes it and actually can get a 4-point play. So a lot of true Laker fans are going crazy already for that nickname. And then also Bronny James, their second-round pick, is going to be number 9. And I think it's been a while since I can remember who was number 9, but obviously Nick Van Exel, one of the earlier guys when I started watching the Lakers in the 90s and stuff, right before Kobe and all that. Yeah, he was a guy that I remember him wearing number 9, and it was pretty good, especially from three-point lane. And I think he even gave his blessing for Bronny James to wear that as well on social media, so that was pretty cool to see. Also, and then there was some talk, especially at the fact that LeBron is looking at a 3-year extension on his contract, which will take him into the 2026-2027 season, I believe. And I think his next child, his second oldest son, is going to be draft eligible in that 2026 draft season. So maybe there's a possibility he's stretching out his career to be able to play with both of his sons in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to be able to get a chance to play with them both on the same team, just because I think Bryce, his younger son, is a little bit better than what Bronny is, so he might get drafted higher and be more valuable to a team compared to nobody really thinking Bronny was as good or good enough, or like how his agent was saying, to not draft him because he was pretty much going to take him to and hold him in Australia until his rights were gone or whatever, some crazy stuff like that. But yeah, maybe if LeBron has it in him to play that long, then, I don't know. I never understood why. Obviously, it's a dream to play with any of your children in the same sport because it doesn't get to happen a lot. Most recently was like Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. playing in the MLB together, but in basketball it's a lot harder, especially since LeBron has already played 20 seasons, which is pretty crazy. And then by then he would be going into his 22nd or 23rd, I believe. So yeah, that's going to be pretty tough on him. But if he just ends up sailing it in and not really trying to be one of the top players or going after championships to try to pass it to Michael Jordan, maybe he can save his body enough just to be able to make that appearance in that final year. You never know, that could be a pretty cool thing. But like I always said, it was always kind of weird that his goal was to play with Bronny but never brought up Bryce, and I think that kind of left a chip on Bryce's shoulder, and that's why he's kind of a bit more polished and better looking when it comes to his high school tape than Bronny was at the time, when he was still pretty good, but you could tell it was more the athleticism helping him in high school. And then, yeah, obviously we know what happened medically when he went to USC, but luckily he is past that. But yeah, we'll see what he can do now that he's officially an NBA Laker. And I want to get into a lot of the guys that the Lakers did add after the draft and all that stuff on two-way deals, or just adding to the Summer League roster to see if they end up getting all those other two-way deals or getting signed to the regular roster themselves. So there was an NC State power forward / center in Mohamed Diarra, who was pretty good because he went all the way to the Final Four with his team. So there's a lot of tape on him, and he's pretty good. It's surprised that he went undrafted. And then there was a Pittsburgh guard, I believe his name is Blake Hinson. He got one of those two-way deals, so that's going to be pretty interesting. See, I guess he's a pretty good shooter. They're also going to bring back that center, Colin Castleton, who they got last year on a two-way deal. I guess his thing isn't official, his two-way deal this year, but I guess you could get up to 3, but we'll see if he's good enough to make the roster or ends up sticking with another two-way deal. And then another player is a French player. I believe his name was Armel Traore. I think I only heard it once, but that could have been wrong too. But yeah, the French got a lot of players drafted and signed after the past couple of seasons. So we'll see what he can do, see if he's a gem or not. And there was also another player from Missouri they got in Sean East II, I believe. He is a guard, so we'll see. Then also an Xavier guard in Quincy Olivier. I think I saw that because I think part of his name at the end was blocked off. But either way, a lot of guys who are shooters. Some of these guys are still athletic enough to play defense, but I guess you're just going for a lot of upside with these guys. At least they're trying their homework and trying to see what sticks, and hopefully some of these guys can be added to their roster officially instead of just being on two-way deals when you can't use them in the playoffs at the end of the season. But hoping that they find some of these pretty good guys after the draft. And a couple of bit of news for Lakers players who did pick up and not get picked up options on their contract. It looks like all D'Angelo Russell, Cam Reddish, and Jackson Hayes have all picked up their player options for this season. Surprisingly, more Russell, just because the other two guys, they kind of really had no choice because they were just probably going to get the same amount of money somewhere else. Might as well just get it from the Lakers, and if you get traded, your contract is still, 100%. So either way, they're still coming along. They still might get traded just because of how many guys did accept and how filled the roster is with the Lakers trying to make some moves, especially now that Russell's involved with that 18-something, almost $19 million. It's definitely a movable contract and could be added to a bunch of different trades and mock scenarios that I will get into later in this video. But yeah, as of right now, those three guys are coming back at least this second. It could change at any moment this week coming up once free agency officially starts. And then they did not send that qualifying offer to Skylar Mays, that point guard they picked up during the season, so he will be an unrestricted free agent. I believe, I don't assume he's going to come back, but you just never know. And then I believe they did work out some type of deal with the restricted free agent Max Christie, who they did draft a couple of years ago in the second round, and they did give him a 4-year extension. I don't know if it's an extension because of his restriction, but it's a 4-year deal with $32 million total, which still isn't bad. I was hoping it wasn't going to be as much, but that's still okay if you kind of average about $8 million a year based on potential for a guy who really hasn't gotten the opportunity to show what he can do. But during Summer League, his first 2 years, especially this last year, right before the season, he did look really well and looked like he was going to be a good contributor off the bench for the Lakers during the season. But maybe Darvin Ham didn't give him minutes for some reason, and it kind of stopped his development. I don't know why, but either way, I'm sure he's going to get some more playing time, especially because it's a nice contract overall to send, a nice $8 million per year average. I don't know how much exactly it will be, but it's still going to be pretty low, under $10 million per season. So that's a movable contract if he ends up not being good his next couple of seasons, or if he is better, then you could end up trading him and using him as a leverage piece as well. So looking forward to seeing what ends up happening there. But yeah, a lot of moving parts here on this Lakers roster. And I forgot to mention, I think the other day, that LeBron is officially opting out of this final year of his deal, and it looks like he's willing to kind of help out the Lakers and take about a $20 million pay cut to this season coming up. And it's probably going to be a shorter deal. It might be a 1-and-1 type of deal instead of that 3-year I mentioned earlier in this video, but he can still try to get some more money off of that first, or off of that next season, and then build on that and still pretty much get his money that he was going to be getting anyway. But this way it'll help get them, for at least this season, another player of like around $12 million or something like that for them to use. And I think he said he's willing to do it. He's kind of only giving them a week because he's going to head over to the Team USA practice pretty soon, and he said he's kind of just giving them this week to see what they can do, give them a little bit of pressure, which is good, just so you could see what Rob Pelinka could end up doing, which player he could end up getting in a trade, sign and trade, something like that in free agency. but I guess the caliber of players that he is looking for is like a Klay Thompson, who is a free agent right now. Also, Jonas Valanciunas, a free agent, the center, and then a guy like James Harden as well, who I believe signed like a 2-year, $70-something million deal to return to the Clippers. So that is out of the question now. But obviously, other players like DeMar DeRozan, I know Paul George was thrown out there a bit, but I think he's going to want a bit more money, especially because this could be his final time to get some really big amount of money per season. So the Lakers aren't going to be willing and able to pay him that much. But a couple of those other guys could be pretty interesting. I don't think I'd want to give Jonas Valanciunas that much, especially if he's going to hurt you during the playoffs, which is why the Lakers were able to beat the Pelicans down the stretch in that play-in game into the playoffs. But overall, he could still be a pretty good guy to add next Anthony Davis. So I don't know, we'll see, because I know there were a lot of rumblings since then, especially once some guys were mentioning trades and stuff and maybe targets for the Lakers. There are guys like the Nets, Cam Johnson. He's a really good player. And then also another player, I believe he's a power forward with Portland, and Jeremy Grant. So those guys are a little bit harder to get in a trade just because they have a bit of amount of money on their next couple of years. But because D'Lo is added, you could add him into pretty much any of those deals. And if you need another guy like Rui Hachimura to make it work money-wise, you could add him, and a Gabe Vincent who makes $11 million. I doubt they're going to give up Austin Reeves for any of those players, but I'm sure they could get either of those guys if they just add in a couple of draft picks. Most likely going to take at least 3 for each guys, especially for Cam Johnson. But Jeremy Grant, he is a bit older. I think he's about to turn 30, so you might not have to give up 3. You could give up 3, but 2 of those could be like draft swaps or something like that, because I know within the next couple of years they have already sent out those first round picks, so they can't really technically trade those first round picks after those that are missing, but they can swap them. So if the Lakers are worse that year, then the other team can take it for that year, and they just switch out, and the Lakers get the worst of the 2 picks that season. And that supposedly still counts, even though the year prior or the year after you've already traded that first round pick, because you can't trade consecutive first round picks anymore. But either way, I'm trying to get into some mock trades right now involving both Cam Johnson and Jeremy Grant. So I want to go over first a kind of more realistic trade that it would get Jeremy Grant to LA. Obviously, the Lakers only get Jeremy Grant from Portland in this situation, but they send Rui Hachimura, I believe it's also Gabe Vincent, and most likely 3 first-round picks, and maybe at least one of those just being one of those swaps. So if that's the case, then it's most likely that future ones, I think it's like 2029 and 2031, are the regular first-round picks, and then any of those other ones before that can be one of those swap deals, because it just works out better, and plus teams are more inclined to take the swap as a just in case, because Lakers could be bad in 3 to 5 years, and then they could be pretty good in 2029 and 2031, and then those are the picks that end up sucking compared to the ones you can swap out for. But either way, that's more of a realistic one, and it kind of works out because they kind of trade off both power forward positions, and yes, obviously the Lakers get an upgrade and a really good player, even though in the past he has said he has always wanted to be like the top or second best guy on a team. Obviously with the Lakers, he's going to be third best behind LeBron and AD, but I don't think he really has a choice. Plus, hopefully, while turning 30, he has matured since making those comments, and hopefully will be part of a nice NBA championship team coming back to LA at some point in the near future. But obviously, with this fanspo.com, I wanted to do a crazy trade that most likely benefited the Lakers more, but I still made it pretty fair, in my opinion. So the more crazy trade, as it would be considered, for Jeremy Grant, obviously he comes to LA along with Joe Ingles for the Magic. The Magic get Gabe Vincent and Jackson Hayes, and Portland gets D'Angelo Russell, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Maxwell Lewis, and those 3 first-round picks. But because in this scenario, they're getting a pretty good player back in D'Angelo Russell compared to Rui Hachimura, in my opinion. So I think you could get away with 2 of those 3 first-round picks being swaps compared to the other prior trade where 2 of them had to be regular picks, compared to here where 2 are swaps and 1 regular. In the future, if they do the swaps, then they also get a chance at those first-round picks even sooner than 2029 and 2031. So that's also enticing as well. So like I said, helps out the Lakers a lot, a little bit fair. I don't think they have to send a first-round pick to Orlando because Orlando is giving up a player that they're basically swapping out a player for the same amount and $11 million to get Gabe Vincent, who can help them out more at that point guard position than an older veteran in Joe Ingles, who was okay last year for them, but he's just obviously very old now, and he's on that expiring $11 million deal, so it doesn't hurt the Lakers as much. I don't think he's going to be starting for them or playing as much as he was for Orlando, but to help you out in certain situations due to injury or maybe down the stretch in the playoffs, I think he could be pretty good, in my opinion. And when it comes to trades for Cam Johnson, yes, the more realistic one is just pretty much Cam Johnson coming to LA, and the Nets get D'Angelo Russell, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Maxwell Lewis, and at least 3 first-round picks. And obviously, I think in this scenario, pretty much all those first-round picks have to be regular ones, so it's going to be pretty far into the future with those first-round picks, unless they want a couple more of those swaps a little bit earlier, as I mentioned before. But this is a more realistic one where the Lakers can get a pretty good bright spot future guy who could play the small forward or power forward position, and is a really good stretch 3-point shooter and very tall too. I think he's like 6'9", 6'10", and can still move pretty well. I only remember him well because he was at North Carolina, and I actually wanted the Lakers to draft him that year, but of course the Suns stole him a couple of picks prior to that. But when it comes to a crazy trade with them, I have the Lakers getting him and Dorian Finney-Smith from the Brooklyn Nets. Then the Nets get D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and at least 2 to 3 first-round picks. I'm only saying 2 in this scenario at least because I think it's going to be better for the Lakers. Obviously, they get the better players, but they are taking on more salary in this scenario and older players, especially with Dorian Finney-Smith being part of this scenario. And I think both him and Johnson have at least 2 to 3 more years on their deals compared to D'Lo, who is expiring. Rui is going to be expiring in 2 more years, and then Maxwell, or whoever I said, Jalen Hood-Schifino, is a young guy to add and see what he has so for the future, so they can see what he has and be able to keep him or not, if that's the case. So either way, I think I was fair on both, even though I considered the second trade scenarios for these guys more of my own versions and consider them crazier just because the Lakers do get way better, in my opinion. But we'll see how this goes. It's going to be a crazy up and down next couple of days for the Lakers, see who else they end up signing and making LeBron happy, and see if he ends up taking that pay cut or not, because like I said, he's probably only going to give him a week, and if not, then he's going to probably take that $50+ billion per year deal. So we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.